Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. And for the first time doing this show, I've been at it a little over a year. I am flat out starstruck. This man here is a legend. If you don't know him, I don't even know what rock you've been hiding under. Please welcome to the show, Tommy fucking Chong.
How you doing? Hey, Tommy used to be fucking Chong.
Nah, still are, man. Still going strong. You look good.
Feel good. Feel good. Yeah. No,
it's good.
I figured out the secret of life.
What's that?
And that's a good night's sleep.
I believe that because I've not had a good night's sleep in about 15 years. So that's...
Oh, you need to try my Nice Dreams. It's called. It's what do you call it? CBD,
yes.
Infused with a little bit of melatonin, and it helps sleep. And I use it every night. It knocks me out, and I'm happy. And that's the secret of life: is get that sleep. Recharge your batteries.
Yeah. The CBD stuff is getting big around here where I'm at. I'm in South Carolina, and they haven't legalized pot yet. They're trying. It's getting there, but it's not went the full distance yet. But the CBD stores are opening, and they're selling the stuff with the THC. They tell you when you go in that, you know, if you get a drug test, you'll probably pop positive because some of the stuff's over the level.
Sure.
But, you know, they haven't put a clamp on that yet. So that part is legal. And I mean, I got to think that that's the first step in the door, you know, to getting into full blown legal.
Well, the reason it was illegal was it's a racist law, you know, it's pure and simple. And so when you don't have that in there, you know, when little kids are doing it and finding out, you know, curing things like epilepsy and like I said, you know, helping people sleep and helping people eat with an appetite, you know, it's all positive. You know, even when it was illegal, the real drug addicts thumbed their nose up at pot because, and it really was a gateway drug because it never acted like a real opioid would act. Yet it would, you know, mess you up enough so that you wouldn't know where if you're driving home, you wouldn't know where you were, you know. But the truth is, marijuana, it calms the mind.
Yes.
It puts you in the moment, and so it'll mess with your memory, you know, and that's a good sign for because there's quite a few people on this planet that need to get new memories, you know.
I used to work. I'm a welder by trade, and I used to work with this older gentleman, and he couldn't weld. Like, you know, to be a welder, you have to have a steady hand. You know, the movement has to flow. It's an art form basically. I tell people it's kind of like drawing with molten metal, but he couldn't do it unless he, you know, rolled a joint and puffed on a little bit in the morning. If he didn't, his hands was shaky, and he would tell me, just be like, look, you know, I'll be back. I gotta go. I gotta go to the car. And he'd come back 5-10 minutes later, and I mean, just as cool as you want to be, lay it down, no big deal. It was like his version of a cup of coffee.
That's right. That's exactly what it does. It calms the mind, and that's why artists, rappers, athletes, because it's all life, especially, you know, entertainment business, acting, it's all about timing.
Yeah.
And if you can use that pause, you know, use that, and that way you're not anticipating. You know, you're right in the moment, and that's what athletes need to be, you know. And musicians and artists, and that you need to be right smack in the moment. That way you're not rushing, you're not ruining, you're not worrying, you know, don't have time, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, like before y'all hit it big with like Cheech and Chong and the things that you guys got into with the, you know, the early records and stuff like that, you know, had you been smoking pot previously? Because a lot of people may or may not know that you were a musician before that.
Yeah. I made a living playing music, and no, I started smoking when I was about in fact, I was 17 years old, and was in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I was at a jazz club because it was the only nightlife that we had in Calgary, was a little private jazz club. And the owner of the jazz club, a Chinese guy named Raymond Ma, he came home from LA, Los Angeles, and he had a present for me. He gave me a joint and a Lenny Bruce record. And I took the joint, put the joint in my pocket, because I was worried about it. You know, I wasn't that ready to get into that marijuana stuff, you know. But he lit up his own joint, and that was the first time I toked it up. And wow, what an impression it had on me, man. I think I quit school the next day. I was trying to make everybody happy, you know, get my grade 12, you know, maybe go to university.
Yeah.
Man, I got high. I said, no, I want to be a guitar player. And that's all I want to do.
I done an interview with a guy named Mark Scheffler, who, if you ever watched an old horror movie called Last House on the Left.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was one of the guys, like the three like killers, and he was the young kid. And he was real young at the time. The movie was real violent for the time it came out. Wes Craven did it.
Sure.
One of his earliest movies. He said they were high on that set like all the time. And he said it was around that time when I learned the three things that were, you know, what I wanted to do in life. He said I wanted to smoke as much weed as possible. I wanted to sleep with as many women as possible. And I want to make just enough money to satisfy the first two. He said, I'm not Greek. I don't need a lot.
That sounds funny. He sounds like a Southern boy.
Yeah.
Was he from North Carolina?
No, he was not. I think he was from California. I'm pretty sure he said from California.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's about it. That was me. You know, once I learned, and the thing is, the pot actually helped me with the ladies, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Because I got so into music. I got so into my playing blues too. And you know, the other thing, I've been doing a lot of these podcasts and that, and when you do that, you get questions, you go back in time. And so I realized that, because marijuana was such a racist law, you know, it still is. Mm-hmm. And I was one of those guys, you know, I look Mexican. I never looked white.
Yeah.
And so I was always on the border. You know, they thought I was either Indian or Native or Mexican, or in fact, not in Canada. In Canada, they just thought I was Native or something.
Yeah. But
it was enough to make the white racist treat me different. And so everything I did with the career, including the music, my first group was called The Shades. And the reason we called The Shades is my first partner was full-blood Sarsi Native American Elvis impersonator, because we were singing country songs until Elvis came along. And then I was, we were quite young and impressionable, but we saw what Elvis did with the girls. And so Dick Bird was his name. He started impersonating Elvis, and Elvis was backup guitar player. And so right away, we got that feeling of girls screaming and the crowd, and once you get that, that's like getting a shot of a good drug, because once you have the girls screaming at you, that's it. That's all I wanted to do, and that's all I really did. And so my first group was called The Shades, because we had I met another guy that I really admired. It was a football player, black football player from, his folks and that were from Texas. When the slave thing ended in the States, they looked at the map, a bunch of them, and they said, wanted to get as far away from Texas as they could. And on the map, it was Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And so they took a wagon train from southern Texas all the way up to Edmonton, Alberta, only to get there and have the the white people in Edmonton say, you can't stay here, but you can go north. And they went to a little town called Amber Valley. And that's where there's a whole Black community up in Canada called Amber Valley. And this Tommy Melton, he passed away a few years ago, but he was this star football player. He wasn't very tall. We were about the same height, but he was fast. He could outrun a horse for 40 yards. That's how fast he was. And so he was a singer. He wasn't the best singer, but he knew the words, and he looked good, and he looked like a singer. And so we put a band together called The Shades. And we got famous because we were the only mixed band and only people playing rhythm and blues in Canada at the time. And that's how we started our career. And because of my social consciousness, we started a Shades Teen Club. And it was like a stroke of genius, because we didn't have to deal with anybody, because it was like a teen club.
Yeah.
And a private club. And so we packed that every Saturday night, man. That place would be packed and swinging. And of course, the rock and roll brought the rock and roll crowd. Mm-hmm. And they were all thugs and rejects and troublemakers. And they would fly in and drive in from all over Canada and the States. We come up to our teen club, and we got so popular that the mayor of Calgary called us into his office. We got called into the mayor's office and told to get the hell out of town. And that started our career.
Wow. Now, how long were you in the music business? I know eventually you did wind up getting let go from, what was that, the Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers or something?
Yeah, I got fired from Motown. I was, I guess right from, okay, I can tell you, 57, 56 actually, when I started playing music with the Shades. 56, and then we got kicked out in 58. And then I stayed with Motown right up to 68.
Wow.
So 1968, it was when we landed on the moon. It was when the Beatles broke up. And that was, and then I got fired from Motown because I was getting a green card. It was some low guy on the totem pole. You know, what do you call it? Manager, road manager, road guy. He told me I had to go back and do an interview for my green card, to be legal in the States, because we'd come down, illegally, just lie, get in, play music, get caught, and get deported back to Canada, get kicked out of Canada, the States. But anyway, I got my green card. And then I went on a solo career. I was going to be a songwriter because I wrote the hit "Does Your Mama Know About Me?" But I'm more of a poet than musical, and that's why I'm not really. I never really made it that far into it. But when I broke up, when I got fired from Motown, I in the back of my head I was going to put another band together, I guess, because the band really. What happened? Because Bobby was such a great singer, as soon as we had that one hit, the people at Motown, they separated Bobby from the rest of the band. Mm-hmm. This is what they do. And so I was more like a musician, just backing up one of Berry Gordy's girlfriends. And but anyway, I got interested in comedy because I'd seen Second City and a few of the improv groups. And so when I got back to Vancouver, by that time we had two nightclubs, and they're both given to us, by the way. That's why I know my life is so serendipity, because I'm not the kind of guy that would, I think I'll start a business, because I'm a kind of guy, because I grew up in the kind of like in the country, not on a farm, but in the country. And when you grow up in the country, you work.
Yeah.
There's always work. There's no such thing as, I don't know what, I'm bored.
Yeah.
You never hear that in the country.
You got plenty of stuff to do around the house, outside of the yard, the fields, and stuff like that.
And no, you got to go make a living. You got to make some. You got to contribute money into the household. You know, if you want anything, you want a bike, you want a toy, you want anything, you go earn it. And so I've always had jobs, and I've always enjoyed whatever job I had, because learn it and that, But I usually got fired because I wasn't that good at it, whatever it was, But the only thing I really got good enough was backing up musicians, backing up singers, And so that's how I got into it. And then when I met Cheech, Cheech was also a singer, but not really a singer. He was a guy that could sing. And just like I'm a guy that can play guitar. I'm not a guitar player. And so when the acting group broke up, we put a band together for sure. And then we were going to do comedy, just to begin with, and then start playing music. But we in the middle of the comedy routine, we realized we're really good at comedy and we're not that good at music. So we'll just keep playing the comedy, and that was it.
Yeah, I think I heard a story. I can't remember what podcast it was on, but the club you ran, you basically had like strippers doing bits too, and then y'all would follow them.
Well, no, what we did, I turned eventually when Cheech and I got together, we used to play other clubs where they had strippers, and then we would come on and either open the show or close the show. But my club, it was a strip joint. It was like an old-fashioned gangster. Bob, what was a Sopranos club? The
Bada Bing.
Bada Boom. Bada Boom.
Bada Bing.
Bada Bing. Bada Bing. That's right. It was that kind of club. And so then I turned it into an improvisational acting club. Not with Cheech, I had another kid on the door we both had long hair. And so we went on stage kind of unexpectedly, because the strip audience had no idea what we were doing. We didn't announce anything.
Yeah.
We just went out there and we were also with a classical guitar player. It was one of the greatest electric guitar players ever in the world, for sure. His name is GOAT of Ganja. And the song that we did, the hit that Earring My Eye, Mama talking to me, trying to tell me how to live. Well, the GOAT of Ganja was the guy that wrote the song, wrote the music. I wrote the lyrics, he wrote the music, and he was a great guitarist, great sense of humor. So when he saw what I was doing with the strip club, he says, here's a bit we got to do, because to change it from a strip club to an improv club, we didn't tell the crowd or anything. And so they're expecting strippers to come out. And so first we sent out a mime artist with blowing flowers and bubbles and with makeup on, and he's a mime artist. And then Dave, my first partner, walked out on stage, and he had a kind of like a Mountie hat or something, and he sings, and he had a scarf around his neck, and he sings his "I dream of Jeannie with the light brown hair. Jeannie is my favorite wired hair terrier." And then all the bikers and all the strip guys are looking at this guy, ready to kill him. And I kick a door open. I got my shirt off, hair all messed up, rolled up newspaper. I walk over like Dave woke me up, and I start beating him with the newspaper. And I go, "What kind of fucking song is that?"
I bet they come unglued, didn't they?
Oh, the crowd went ape shit. They just went nuts. They loved it so much. And then we started doing improv groups, bits with the girls coming out, with their clothes on, or some with their clothes off. We got skits from the Playboy magazine. That's where we got our material. And anyway, it became really popular, and actually it caused our demise, because we got so popular, we changed the audience from hard drinking, money throwing bikers to wine sipping, count your change theater goers.
Yeah, tight asses.
and my brother, when he took as long as he could, then he threw the bills in front of me and says, you know, we got to go back to the old way. And at that time, Cheech had joined the group, and Cheech and I became friends, and then we decided we were going to, first of all, form a group, and then we, instead of that, we just went into comedy, and then the first night, well, we entered a battle of the bands with a whole band. We had a bass player and a drummer and the keyboards, and but Cheech and I went out and did comedy, and we never did play music. And the band was pretty funny. The bass player goes, "Well, when's our next gig, boss?" Because we never played a note. And that night, that's when Cheech and Chong was born, because we never had a name. You know, we said, what do we call ourselves? Richard and Tommy? Nah. Marin and Chong? Nah. I said, Cheech, don't you have a nickname? And he said, yeah, Cheech. And that was it. Cheech and Chong. That was it.
I mean, and that's how the legends were made, because you guys, y'all were doing this stuff basically before it even, like what we're doing now almost. Like even podcasting is a version of what y'all guys are doing way back then.
Way back then. Oh, yeah. In fact, we would go on the radio. We were on Dick Clark, as a matter of fact. And it's one of those iconic shows that they show all the time, where I told the producers and Dick, I said, you know, be careful. We're going to go crazy on the set. You know, it was called Raider Record. And so I warned everybody. I says, and I kind of prepped them up. You know, I says, have a set that we can destroy, because I look like a biker anyway. Yeah. You know, and I had the tattoos and everything. And Cheech looked like a lowrider bato, you know. And so we were raiding a record. And that was the cue. We're going to raid a record. So I said, you and I think of that? And I took this chain that I had, and I started just tearing up the set. And the record, we ripped the record in half, tore up the thing. Dick took off. Everybody took off, you know, running for their lives. And that's how we made our television debut. Wow. And it was incredible.
Now, when you guys were doing the club stuff, was that all in like California area? Was that still Canada? Where was all that at? Or all
well, it was. We started off in Vancouver, then we went to California, then we went to Los Angeles. Right. And it took us about a year in Los Angeles, and then we got discovered by Lou Adler. Yeah. Okay. And once we got discovered by Lou, went in and he had a record company, and so I told Lou, he said, how can I help you? And I says, we want to do a comedy record. He says, great, what do you need? And I said, $1,000 and a little tape recorder. And he started writing off a check, and I said, make that $2,000 because there are two of us. Yeah. Because I seen I jumped in there real fast. I couldn't have done more. Each. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's how we started. And our first record, it was incredible. Our first record was a rehearsal with a little tape recorder. We went into a little mixed down room and we started working on this bit, and it ended up being our signature bit. In fact,
Dave's not here.
Dave's not here. As soon as we recorded it, Lou had it on the air that night. And by in the middle of the day, the next day, we were known all over America and Canada.
And that was an accident, right? Like the bit itself, was that an accident?
Well, it was supposed to be a rehearsal.
Right.
And I was supposed to record it. But when you record anything, it's a recording.
Yeah. Because he was outside and he was kind of frustrated with you, you know.
Oh my God, he was so mad. And when I heard that, because we did all these skits, you know, in the strip club and that, you know, and basically it was that you know, just keeping people from what they want, you know, just hanging the audience up. But when I got Cheech outside and he was trying to get inside and he wouldn't break character. He couldn't because we were recording it. And so I just tortured the shit out of him until he was ready to kill me when he got in, and finally got in. But that was the record to this day. You know, we've never even come close to matching that energy and that thing. That's why I've always maintained how serendipity our act was. You know, the fact that I got fired from Motown, the fact, you know,
yeah.
I mean, I got fired from Motown after they gave me a green card. You know, and Barry Gordy called me up personally. He said, "You're not fired." And I told Barry, I said, "Yeah, I want to become a Barry Gordy. I don't want to work for one."
Yeah.
And Barry says, I can respect that. And then the next time I saw Barry was at the comedy store, store in Los Angeles.
LA, yeah.
And he came with Stevie Wonder. Stevie became a big fan. Now, picture this. When I was with the Vancouvers, I was part of the band that would go on before Stevie, and Stevie would headline. And then at the end of the act, we would take turns dancing with Stevie because, you know, so he wouldn't fall off the stage, wouldn't hurt himself. And so we had to hang on to him, or he would hang on to you. And we would take turns dancing with Stevie. And no one wanted to dance with Stevie because he would get too excited and start pounding on people and you know, hurting people. And you almost want to punch him out, you know. But he became, because we did a bit, first of all, we were a record,
right?
Audio, and then we did a bit. I used to do a bit called Blind Melon Chillin'.
Yeah, Blind Melon Chillin', yeah.
And Stevie loved that bit, and he came with Barry, and he saw us at the thing. It was a nice reunion. You know, we had a nice time.
Which record was it that y'all done that you put the rolling paper in?
Big Bamboo.
Big Bamboo. That was
Big Bamboo. Yeah.
I remember hearing my granddad tell me about that.
Yeah. The back in the day, album covers, starting with the Stones, were works of art, and so we hit around the same time as Stones with the Tongue, and I think it was one of the same artists that came up with that concept. But it was like a big giant rolling paper, and that's iconic.
Oh, it's
art, definitely art, definitely works of art.
Yeah, I talked with a photographer a couple weeks ago. We had a podcast, and he had shot pictures of like Steven Tyler and Buddy Guy and Ronnie James Dio, David Bowie, you know, a lot of famous people. And we had that discussion of how, like, today it's not as much, you know, as prevalent because now everything's streaming based. But back when your albums came out, you know, even back in those days, you know, on the records, like an album cover could make or break you, you know, depending.
Absolutely. And Lou Adler, our record producer, knew that. And so our first album, it was a bright yellow, with just Cheech and Chong, just two figures, a little Mexican bean and a dragon, a Chinese dragon. And that was so that you could spot that sucker anywhere, you know. Oh yeah, there was a lot of psychology behind the album covers, and that's when record stores were the hangout. You know, that's where you go and spend your afternoons, your weekends in a record store.
But I mean, it's so ingenious too, because you got the rolling paper. You know, that's what people did, man. They put on the album and, you know, let it play, and then they broke out the weed on the cover and rolled it up. I mean, it was really genius marketing.
Oh yeah.
Way before its time back then.
Oh yeah.
Way before.
Oh yeah. No, we had fun with our album covers. Los Cochinos, we had all sorts of trippy things on there. And then the wedding album, we had the bride pregnant with a bag over her head. we were so what do you call it? So insensitive. And so, I mean, you know, people say, "Oh, you couldn't do that today." Well, you wouldn't want it. Well, you don't need to do that today.
Yeah.
You know? But back then, you needed it. You know, we had license to do it. You know?
Yeah. Well, you guys, I mean, like I said, both of you guys were trailblazers, and that aspect. And it's, you know, like you said, yeah, you couldn't get away with that stuff today. God, one act and you guys would be, what do they call it? Cancel culture or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I actually quit doing Blind Melon before, you know, all the woke and all that counterculture thing hit, because what happened, Herbie Hancock, you know, the great pianist, jazz pianist, was a big fan of Cheech and Chong. And in fact, he had us come to, he had a big concert in Switzerland. And we were a guest on his show because he was such a big, he was a kid, you know, he's younger than me for sure. And so he was like a kid when he heard Cheech and Chong, like everybody else. But Blind Melon Chitlin used to fuck with him because he loved, in fact, he had to tell me, because we met in Reno, Nevada, and he was going to play the same venue as we were. And so he came down early to see the show because he's such a fan. And then after the show, we were talking, and Herbie says to me, he says, you know, man, I tell you, you know, when you start doing the blind bit, you know, you play that music, you know, like, yeah, you're playing, you're playing. He says, and then you get into that other shit. And it was like the jazz guy way of saying, it's good up to that point,
Yeah,
you know, and now it gets a little bit too close to home. Well, you know, David Chappelle, you know, he's a buddy. You know, I was in his movie one time, and I know David was the same way. You know, big fan, but the reason he got out of comedy was that he started getting fans that were laughing at the wrong joke for the wrong reason. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He got so international that all of a sudden he had all these races laughing at his caricatures of his own people.
Yeah.
And I was just watching Jamie Foxx show, and the Wayland brothers and that, you know, on TV, because I'm catching up on a lot of sitcoms that I either forgot or never did see.
Yeah.
And I noticed how you know, really Uncle Tommy's Jamie Foxx and the Wayland brothers were, and Martin, all of them, you know, they like catered to that, you know, that that kind of crowd, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took, I'm kind of glad, you know, I'm finished. You know, Cheech and I are done as far as touring goes. Right. We'll do appearances where we talk about our career, but as far as performing anymore, you know, it's over.
Yeah,
that part's over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when the movies came about, like I remember the first time I seen Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke, and I was so young at the time. I don't even know if I like got the marijuana concept of the movie.
Probably not.
But it was still funny as hell.
Oh yeah.
And now that I'm older, when I very much get the marijuana concept, it's even funnier.
Yeah.
And my son, he's 13. And I told him, I said, son, I got, you know, Tommy Chong coming up on an interview. And he's like, you know, who's Tommy Chong? And I was like, well, let me let you watch this movie. And I mean, even he thought it was funny. And I'm sure 13 nowadays, I mean, I'm sure he probably knows what weed is and, you know, with all the smartphones and stuff like that. But even he thought it was funny then. And I was like, every once in a while, you get these pieces that no matter when it was made, if it's delivered the right way by the right people, they're going to hold up forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all those
exactly what y'all had. I mean, just all those bits you did in the car, like, you know, how's my driving? I think we're parked, man. I mean, all those classic lines. Classic. Yeah. I mean, they stayed forever, and that was our nightclub act that we would do, and you know, we did forever. And in fact, Lou, who was the producer, or then he ended up directing Up in Smoke. He wanted us to do a greatest hits, Cheech and Chong's greatest hits. And then I wrote the song Up in Smoke, and I sang it for Cheech and Lou. And right then Cheech said, that's the movie. That's the title of the movie.
And then because once we had the title and the characters, and Cheech and I, then we went ahead and wrote the movie and directed most of it.
So y'all wrote a lot of those dialogue, a lot of the dialogue in there was y'all?
All of it. All of it. We wrote everything, all the dialogue, and directed most of it, because we would write bits that we would think of as we would do our live show. Mm-hmm. You know, we looked at the movie experience as like a live performance. And we did less than a month of performing, and we had a whole movie. You know, there was we had to do one reshoot. That was the ending. Lou thought he had an ending, and you know, he wanted to surprise me with it, and the surprise that broke us up because it was so bad. You know, his version was so bad that I said, I gotta fix this, and he wanted to know what it was, and I said I got to direct it too. You know? So that was really the end of the Lou Adler and Cheech and Chong thing. You know, well, he was a record guy for sure. You know, and he tried. I think he went ahead and tried to do another movie after us, but it didn't go anywhere. So we. No, and then we went on. Cheech and I went on. You know, no. When you get to movies, man, it's a no bullshit. Well, like anything, it's no bullshit thing either.
Right. And that's that was my next question. Did that kind of? I'm sure the first one was probably fun, but after that, you know, when you guys were banging them up, did it kind of become more unfun, I guess, than the bits and stuff you guys were doing?
Well, it did with Cheech. I was directing them all. And I, of course, once you become a director, it's like you become a megalomaniac.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you got so much power, you know, and that power is so beautiful. You know, if you're the director, you know, but if you're the actor, it can be annoying, you know, and with Cheech, it got annoying with Cheech, because with our records, we shared everything, you know, the writing, the bits, everything. But but what broke us up really was that Cheech had his own vision. See, up until you know, especially the movies, because when we broke up with Lou and then I became the director, then Cheech didn't mind the first one, which was Cheech and Chong's next movie.
Right.
You know, he really enjoyed that one. The next two he wasn't that thrilled with because it was my choice, you know, it wasn't his. And he's always liked to be able to put his thing in there, you know.
Yeah,
and it really got to be just the Tommy Chong show, you know, because I mean, actually, you know, I did write, I did do everything I said I did. You know, I did after we did next movie. And next movie really, that's when I really became the director, you know, because we had one scene in there where we had Nick, our neighbor Nick. He was an ex child actor, and now he's trying to, you know, act as an adult. Well, he always had that feeling, that star feeling that you get. Macaulay Culkin I think that's his name. Home Alone.
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, he sort of went through that phase, you know, where he's a star, and then all of a sudden you grow older, and you got to change. You got to become somebody else. You know?
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened to this Nick, and I cast the movie, everything, and so now I'm having a little trouble with Nick. Describing the scene to him, because Nick, those guys, the old-time actors, they just listen to the director. You see, well, when we started doing movies with me directing, everybody had a say. Because I was as new to the business as anybody. It wasn't like I'm bringing a lot of experience into the thing,
right? And
so. It's like a band or something, you know. You always, you know, entertain everybody's ideas. You see. And Nick wasn't, the actor wasn't that used to doing that. And so when I think it was Cheech, oh no, it was King Baggett, the DP, the photographer, director of photography. He tried to tell Neat Nick what to do, and Neat Nick got a little old school and says, "I don't believe I met the new director," you know, that kind of shitty gay thing, you know. And Cheech right away took offense and started telling Neat Nick off. You see, well, in the movie hierarchy, actors do not say anything. You shut the fuck up until it's your turn. And but Cheech was so used to being Cheech and Chong, you know, that he felt that he, you know, had it. So I had to deal with Neat Nick because he stormed off the set. "I'll be in my trailer," and we needed him to finish the scene and everything else. And so so he told the DP, you know, "I want my trailer filled with champagne and flowers." And so they asked me, "What should we do? What should we do?" And I said, "Get him the champagne, get him a bottle of champagne, and get him some flowers." And so they did, you know,
Wow.
they did, got boom, boom. Because see, I'm the director. I got to make those decisions, you know.
Yeah.
Am I going to fuck around with somebody with $100,000 an hour shoot going?
Yeah. Get him a damn box of flowers and some champagne.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And so that's what I learned right away, you know, as a director. You know, I've always been a natural director. I mean, because I started the strip club, you know, directing that, and directing everything, you know, anything to do with acting and comedy. You know? Mm-hmm. And so that's what happened. And Cheech, you know, he took it as much as he could. And because he is very intelligent, very talented and everything else. And then he went off and did his own movie, which was Born in East LA.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
I remember that one.
And that was it. That was the end of our career as far as movies go.
Yeah. Well, now, at what point after that did you start getting, because I really wanted to focus on this because you got probably one of the biggest railroad jobs I had ever read about by the government with the whole bong situation. When you guys were in the bong business, selling the bongs, and they're trying to, they tried to originally get your son, right?
Yeah. No. They wanted me.
Oh, they wanted you, but they charged
me. They wanted me. But I was protected because it was my son's company. So my son right away, you know, he knew right away, you know, to protect me. So but when the feds came after us, and then they really let our lawyer know that they don't give a shit about my son, you know. They wanted me for the publicity, you know, to say, you know, they took down this comic icon, and then the feds squeezed. They said either I, you know, give up, or they will come after not only my son but my daughter, my wife, Shelby, because she signed the check that started the bong company. And so technically they could go after her too. And you know, and when they say that, they're not saying that you're going to end up in jail right away. What they're saying is that you're going to spend a fortune on lawyers.
Yeah, litigation, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to spend a fortune. And that's how they break you. That's how the government breaks you.
Yeah, they take away your finances.
So when it came down to that, then I said, of course, you know, I'm just going to, you know. And then they give me these promises that, oh, you'll probably just get house arrest. But when I got in front of the judge, you know, the judge says 9 months in jail. And I got to tell you the truth, man, I was a little excited about it. You know, it was a new adventure. And I had connections with prisons. Mm-hmm. Because when I was in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, growing up, my house, I got to meet a lot of ex-guys that just got out of jail, because I kind of hung with that sort of the bad crowd.
Right.
My brother went with the jocks, mm-hmm. you know, and the nice people, like Cheech did.
Yeah.
You know, the higher education, the jocks, and everything else. Well, I hung with the rejects,
Yeah.
the dropouts, the high school dropouts. And so back in Alberta, in Canada, when you got out of jail, it was kind of cold-blooded. You know, they just, you're out. No help, no money, nothing. They just kick your ass out. And so there was no halfway houses like they have now in California. And this is Canada, it's cold as hell. And so I started having buddies of mine whose friends would just be getting out of jail. And my best friend one time, we got caught. He got caught with a stolen car, and so he got 2 years in the pen. And when he got out, he was all buffed and tanned and looking really good, you know. And I looked at him. He's just working out in jail. He had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I wouldn't mind doing that. Go there, work out. And that's what I did when I did my 9 months. I got to tell you, I had one bad half hour the first night when I got there. Because I went from a beautiful wife in bed in the Palisades to a little cot with a cement wall next to me at night in bed. And then I heard the key turn. I could hear the door being locked. And I got that claustrophobic kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And then I went into my spiritual mode, and just a warm feeling come over me. It was like, hey, relax. You're supposed to be here. Enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it. And that was it. From that day, from that hour on, I really enjoyed the adventure. It was an adventure. I felt like I was a writer, which I am, embedded with the troops, you know, on location.
Yeah.
And the location happens to be prison, you know. So I not only enjoyed it, I remembered every bit of it. And then I evolved, you know. I did studying. I joined the Sweat Lodge Society with the natives. And then I found out after I got out of jail that I'm 8% native, you know, by blood, you know. And so it was very, very ordained, you know, supposed to be.
Just to make sure people understand, like, you guys started the bong business, and what you got arrested for was actually what, mailing them across state lines.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Which we never did, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You never didn't they have like somebody inside trying to like get you to do it? You kept not doing it.
They did it. That's what they did. It was the DEA. Not only that, but they filmed and recorded everything. And so when they put me in trial, we got access to all the tapes. They give me the tapes and everything else, showing that it was all entrapment.
Yeah.
It was total entrapment. But because I pled guilty, they could do that. Now, had I not pleaded guilty, I wouldn't have seen any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And they would have said, okay, we're not after him, we're after his wife, we're after his kid, you know, and then there would have been a shitstorm, you know.
Now, who was pushing this whole agenda at the time for the drugs? Was that Biden? Was Biden over that?
No, it wasn't Biden. Although it was his law that got me caught. The paraphernalia law was written by Joe. No, it was George Bush and Ashcroft.
Okay.
Ashcroft, and it was the Bush family.
That was right. It was Joe's law that got you, the paraphernalia.
Yeah, it was it was a Biden law that got it. And you know, and I'm quite sure Joe, you know, he is a decent guy, you know. And if there's a fault about Joe, he's too decent.
Yeah.
you know, if you can be too decent, especially in politics, you know. But he is really a decent guy. I know his son. I know Hunter.
Yeah.
You know? In fact, I was on one talk show and they asked me, who would you like to get high with? Who needs to get high? And I said, Joe Biden. and I shouldn't have said that because it went viral. You know. Oh boy. Well, Tommy Chong thinks Joe Biden should get high. You know. And Joe's been going through that with his son, Hunter, with his opioid problems and everything else. But I met Hunter, and And I had Hunter okay to be on TikTok with me. I was going to put him on TikTok with me, but that would have created too much bullshit, you know. But I met Hunter, and I've got a connection. You know, I got a friend that's connected to the Bidens, and I'm waiting. I had a chance to get pardoned, you know, with Obama.
Really?
Because when Obama was in, you know, that's when I was in, and Obama and Cheech went to accept he got an award for being a Chicano, you know, the Chicano art guy. And so when Cheech talked to Obama, and Obama knew who Cheech and Chong were because he grew up in Hawaii.
Oh, I'm sure. I know Obama smoked weed back in the day. You know who you all were.
Oh yeah, he was very cool. And so he told Cheech, hey, you know, have him fill out the paperwork and I'll sign it. I'll get him pardoned. But the trouble is with pardons is that you admit it, you're admitting guilt.
Yeah.
And rather than admit guilt, I said, no, I'm going to keep this. And at the right time, then I'm going to go back because I want to get made whole too, because he took about $100,000 and some odd cash. It was about $30,000 cash. It had nothing to do with the bong business, you know, it was the t-shirt money. But you know, that's the way those drug laws are, you know.
Yeah.
They're just designed to take you down regardless of who you are, you know.
And weren't you in there with Jordan Belfort?
Yep, I sure was.
Wow, the Wolf of Wall
Street. We were
cellies. Y'all were cellies.
We don't say cellmates. Too gay. But we were cellies. No, you learned that radio.
He was writing his book in there at the time?
Well, I was writing my book first, and he was just playing tennis. He was a tennis buff. So, and they had a tennis court there, and he'd play tennis every day. But he came in there and he saw me writing, and Jordan's very competitive, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so he said, you know, I told him I was writing my memoirs, you know, basically. And he said, oh, I'm going to write a book. And so he started writing, and then he showed me his first page, you know. Jordan's a cool guy. He's a genius.
Oh, yeah.
I've met a few geniuses, and he is a genius. And one of the things about the geniuses is that they're both insecure, and yet they got an ego that would make Donald Trump look twice, you know. And so he wrote a couple of pages, and then he handed it to me like I was a school teacher, you know.
Here, grade this.
And I read the first page, and I said, wow. He said, what do you think? I said, well, to be honest, you haven't written shit. He goes, what? Not used to it. You know, geniuses are not used to hearing that. You know?
Yeah.
And I said, no, you just wrote the first paragraph of Bonfires of the Vanities. Because, see, you know what geniuses are? They have the ability to remember. They can hear something one time or read something one time and remember everything word for word. See, Bob Dylan's got that talent. Very few people know this. Last documentary Dylan did, he admitted, he told the secrets he never told before. Number one, he had a voice that he could imitate any singer that he heard. He could sound exactly like any singer he heard. And number two is that he could memorize anything. He'd hear it once and memorize. And so when he heard Woody Guthrie, now here's the guy that doesn't have the best voice, but he's writing songs and with verses that go on forever. And so Dylan found his new hero. And so Bob Dylan started copying Woody Guthrie, right down to his bad singing voice. Isn't that something? I never knew that.
I didn't know that either.
And then when I found that out, then it made sense because one thing about Guthrie, he was limited. You know, he could do what he did, and he sang about, you know, the country and everything else. But Dylan had this intellect that's crazy. Yeah. Crazy. And so now you got an intellect that can imitate everybody. He's imitating Woody Guthrie in a sense, but he's creating his own style, and he's singing in a voice that makes you listen to the lyrics. And the lyrics are Bob Dylan's gold. That's, well, he got the Nobel Peace Prize for it, for his lyrics, just his lyrics. And he's made zillions of dollars, because once you write a song, you know, that song is like a gold mine that the money just pours in. And so, yeah, so that's what I found out about guys that have that talent. And with Belford, now after, when I told him, you know, then he asked me, because I busted him right away. Mm-hmm. And when you bust those geniuses, now they want to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, you caught me. No, what should I do? And so then I gave him advice. I said, when you write anything, it's fiction. You're using imagination. I said, there's the most of rule, I call it. And for instance, if you read the Christian Bible, the first or second Testament, first Testament usually, the writers, all the Bible was written by writers, you know. And the way people talk about the Holy Bible, they're written by writers. And writers by nature, especially good writers, have an imagination. And so God didn't only allow the Israelis to escape, but he stopped the river.
Yeah.
He parted the Red Sea. That's how powerful God is. He parted the Red Sea. And then, even though it was muddy, he made the mud hard enough for the chariots and the people to walk across the Red Sea. And then when the armies come in there, then he released the Red Sea. And, you know, that's writing. I told Jordan, I said, that's writing. Because the Bible is the bestseller, been forever, you know. Mm-hmm. We sold more Bibles than anything. And that's why you sell it, you know. Jesus was not only holy, but he could walk on water. You know, he could create loaves and fishes out of thin air. You know what I mean? The most out. And so Jordan, he was such a genius, you know, and he listened to me, and he did it. He did it.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese to do his movie. I mean, what a, you know, if you're writing a book, you know, not even thinking about what your aspirations might be, you're writing a book hoping to get it pitched, and then Martin Scorsese picks it up. I mean,
well, again, he's a genius, right? So the genius, they don't take the normal route. They go, okay, who should I get to do this movie? The best.
Yeah.
And see that Balford's the best. So he said, okay, boom. He settled in on both Martin Scorsese and the actor, you know.
Yeah, that movie was so good.
Isn't it incredible? It was incredible.
I thought
and Jordan and I hooked up. We hooked up after that, you know, because we became tight as can be, you know. And when he got out, especially when he sold his movie, he showed up at my house, you know. He couldn't come in. We couldn't talk to each other.
Yeah.
He's keeping his horn and waving and saying, hey, I sold the movie. I did the movie. And no, we're not as tight as we were, of course, you know, in prison, because we're not that close anymore.
Right.
But a lot of respect on both sides, you know, a lot of respect on mine and a lot of respect on his, you know.
Yeah, Scorsese's done great movies, man. And, you know, he's obviously synonymous in the gangster movies with doing Casino and then Goodfellas, which is from that, you know, picture behind me there that you asked me about with De Niro. And then, you know, to do something like Wolf of Wall Street, that's, you know, totally different, but yet still have that same effect where you just think, God, what a great movie. I mean, he's a master at what he does. Cause I love Goodfellas is another one of my favorite movies. I mean, he has a way of putting it. Yeah. It's still great.
Yeah, you can look at Scorsese's movies over and over and over again and always learn something, you know.
Yeah.
Cheech and I had the honor and the joy of working with Scorsese in After Hours. We did a movie with Griffin Dunn, and Marty actually he asked for Cheech and Chong, you know, and so we ended up in the After Hours movie.
Wow.
So we had some nice moments with Marty, very nice moments.
You like gangster movies?
Love them.
Yeah.
You know the weirdest thing? The night that Ray Liotta died, I was surfing and all of a sudden, Goodfellas. So boom, I said, got to see this. And I watched Ray Liotta in Goodfellas, and then the next morning, I got the news that he had passed away.
Oh.
It was. Now I'm very connected to the cosmos, and that was another time, because why out of all the movies, all of a sudden I'm watching that one. You see, so there's a very tight spiritual connection with a lot of us,
Yeah,
and it's there,
And it's crazy. Out of that whole genre, you had Ray Liotta. Then a week or so ago, you had James Caan, and then you had, if you watch Sopranos, I don't know if you watched HBO Sopranos, but Tony Sirico just died last week.
Yeah. Well, they're getting old.
Yeah,
they're getting old. They're actors, and they're getting old. Yeah, James Caan. Yeah.
Tony Sirico in Sopranos, and I don't know, which they said in real life, like he was a real gangster. He had done time. He was with I don't know if it was the Lucchese's or the Columbos, but
sure.
And I don't think if he meant to do it, but he was just, his facial expressions would just have me cracking up, and the things that he would say. But he was doing it in a way to be serious, but it came across as hilarious. And he was probably my most favorite character on that show. And that is hands down my most favorite TV show of all time, Sopranos.
Oh yeah, Sopranos. And I mean, the way it was crafted, the way they went to therapy, and so you see that, and you see the humanity and the inhumanity.
Yeah, you get both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. Wow, I mean, it's like, whoa, especially in that time. One time we were working around New Jersey somewhere, Cheech Chong and Shelby, I guess my wife was with us. And I was downtown New Jersey somewhere, and I'm walking by this deli, and all of a sudden, this big, looked like Paulie, one of those guys. He had the bib on. So, hey, John, hey, come here. And we go in there, and we have it done. What you guys doing? Where are you? You're working here? Hey, I love all your movies. Love that. I love these guys, man. My wife, let me tell you about my wife. She's doing stand-up. She's very beautiful, but she's very feisty, And so the thing is, when you do comedy, especially back east, it's terrible for women. In fact, most women, they won't work those clubs.
Yeah.
The kind of in Jersey where Andrew Dice Clay and that,
Yeah.
Because the guys are so ignorant.
Yeah.
They're so ignorant because, first of all, they know they could never get anything as hot as what they're watching.
Yeah.
And so rather than even try, they would sooner just make enemies of them. Yeah. Because now they get attention. When they get thrilled being told to fuck off, so they go, hey, yeah. So I worked out first, and we're on the same bill as Bobcat Ghostway, and so I let's see, she went up first. She had to go up first, and I hear the silence. Because one of the tricks the New Jersey comedy clubs do, they won't laugh. No matter what you do, they won't laugh. And so my wife went out there, and she had about 20 minutes. No laughs. And so I'm thinking, she's either going to quit the business or something, So she's walking back, and we pass each other. I'm walking on. She introduced me. I'm walking on. And I said to her, pretty rough crowd, huh? And she said, fuck them. She went out the second show, and they loved her. They loved her because she won't back down from, well, she grew up with brothers, in a tough neighborhood, in a tough neighborhood, and
got thick skin already,
Yeah, you're not going to bother, they've gone through that whole whole thing, but she was funny. And then she gets on the stage, and because, you know, we're kind of loose with her writing and that, and she will write whatever's going on, she'll see it. And Bob Goldthwait had just broken up with his wife, and he had his new girlfriend on the road with him. And she's really young and gorgeous. And my wife mentioned something about Bob dumping his wife, something like that. And Goldthwait went fucking nuts. He went crazy. I don't think it was there. It was in New York, because we went from there and we went to New York. No, Vegas. It was in Vegas. It was in Vegas, the top of one of the things. Anyway, it was the comedy club. And Bob goes, like, come to me. And he's literally crying. He's crying like a baby. You know, your wife said, you know. And I looked at him. I never said it, but I'm thinking, we're comics.
Yeah.
That's what we do for a living. What makes you think if you do something and you're going to have a woman comic behind it, that she's not going to bring up the fact, you know, what you did, you know? Yeah. And so I says, Bob, you know, she's a comic. What do you want me to do? He's, well, you know, I don't like, you know, I don't like her talking about me. I didn't say it, but I'm thinking, you pussy.
Oh, that's classic stuff right there. Yeah, you're right about Jersey, because and New York too. I just took a trip up there, which I think I told you before we got on there, and I actually was interviewing an old mob guy from Brooklyn, and he took me. I wasn't even expecting all this. I was gonna meet him, and I thought we were just gonna do some one-on-one talking. But he drove me around in his car. He drove me around Brooklyn for like 4.5 hours, and was like stopping here. He's like, okay, here's where this murder happened. Okay, here's where this club was, where everybody would meet. Here was this social club. This is where so-and-so is headquartered. Yeah. This is where so-and-so grew up. And I mean, I was just like, just taking it all in, because I don't even think I'd ever been to Brooklyn before, where we're at. And it was really cool. And then we went to this Italian restaurant, and he's like, you know, you hungry? And I'm like, yeah, we're hungry. It was a buddy of mine went with me. He was recording. And so we go in this Italian restaurant, and you could just tell, like, when he went in, he was a somebody, and they seated us. And so I'm like, you know, he's drove us around. It's New York. Gas is what, you know, $2,000 a gallon. And I'm like, I'm going to pay for the meal. You know, you're doing all this nice stuff. And he looked at me, he said, absolutely not. You put your hands back in your pockets. This is on me. You visited me. I got you. And I mean, just as cool as can be. And it's being able to do stuff like that, talk to guys like yourself, other guys, Tim McBride, which was a big pot smuggler we mentioned earlier. I think you just signed a book for him.
Sure.
These are just amazing things that 2 years ago, I didn't even listen to podcasts. I never listened to them. And now I'm doing one and getting to talk to guys like yourself, you're a legend. And sometimes it's just hard to take in. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
No, my pleasure, man. I love it. I love it. Yeah, we used to have a limo driver meet us in New York. And then we'd go to a party and we'd turn around and there he is. The limo driver's with us at the party.
We've had that happen with Uber drivers before. They picked us up going to a club or go out and party, and he can tell just by going to wherever we're going that we're going to have a good time. And he was like, you know, when I get done driving, I'm going to come back and hang out with you guys. And sure enough, about an hour later, he comes to the club and like, hey, what's going on? I'm like,
yeah.
He's like, no, I'm partying. I'm going to get an Uber home.
Yeah, New York. I love New York, man. Cheech and I, we had the best time. Well, that's what kind of fools you about Donald Trump, because Trump is a pure New York guy.
Yeah,
you see. And the thing is about New York, when you rat somebody out or something, you know, it's like part of the game. He ratted you out. Yeah, he did. Michael Cohen, he ratted me out. Yeah, Michael, he should talk, man. I could tell, you know, the gangsters. And so when I saw what Trump was doing with the country, you know, at first I thought, he's got a shot. You know, if he had been legit, he would be president today, you know, because people loved him. but he's a liar and a thief and a con man and a coward. He's all those things put together, man. And
well, he knew how to talk. That's the thing is, a lot of these days, even if people don't necessarily have the qualification to do something, if you can talk,
yeah,
you can captivate an audience. Like, you know, Hulk Hogan, you know, I'll get off subject for a minute and go to wrestling. Hulk Hogan was a great talker, but his in-ring capabilities were very, very limited. But
yeah,
his character, his persona, his promos, the way he done it, that carried him through generations. And if
sure.
you can talk, if you can captivate people and you can get people to like what you say, to a point, they don't care if you'll do what you say you're going to do because they just like you as a person.
Well, that's what cults are made of. Guys that can hypnotize.
Yeah, man.
Because basically,
you know, all those other
that's what Trump does. He hypnotizes you. You know, the way he moves his hands and everything else, he hypnotizes you. But the trouble is with Trump, you know what ruined Trump? The Apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
See, before he did The Apprentice, he was just a hustler, okay? Now, when he did The Apprentice, he was an actor. He learned how to be an actor. And he found out he likes acting, you know, especially when you let him make up his own lines and that, you know, you give him a situation and then he comes in and he does what he adds everything to it. And so he got into acting. And then he loved the writing part of it too, because if you don't like an ending, you reshoot it, you know, or if you, you know, and then because he's a cheat, he cheats at everything. And that's what gangsters do. Yeah, that's what gangsters are, basically cheaters and liars, you know. They'll do whatever they have to do to make the score, you know, to get whatever it is. You know, you have to be nice, you have to be shitty, whatever you got to do. It's all an act, you know. You know how they say, hey, nothing personal? They mean it. It's really nothing personal, but I'm going to kill you and I'm taking everything you own. But it's nothing personal. You know?
All for the end game.
And so when he devised this cockamamie idea of taking over the government, he did it with actors, not real people. See, if you're going to do a coup, first people you got to really get on your side is the military, the muscle. You got to get the muscle on your side, and you have to be able to back up that military. That military is going to back you up because you're the strong guy. He first of all, he never even come close to getting the military, because all the military, they're old guys. They don't want to ruin America. You know, they would say no, and they already said it. They weren't going to do it. But anyway, what Trump did, he went on like it was a movie. You know, it's like, okay, we're going to do the Capitol and we're going to take back our country. You know, and I'm going to be right with you. And then he gets in the car and the Secret Service say, you ain't going nowhere, dude. You know, they've got people with guns down there. Our job is to make sure you don't get around people with dangerous weapons. That's only our job. You know, we can't mess up that job. That's our job, dude. You may be the president, but we're in charge of taking care of your dumb ass. And we're not going to let you do that. And as much as he wanted to do it, you know, at first I thought, you know, he's just a big blowhard and he wasn't going to show up, but he wanted to show up, which would have made it even worse. Now, instead of being out and being a president in exile, you know, which he is, he would have been either dead or in jail, you know, because once that shit happens, you know, it's like, this is how our system is worked up. There's you know, they always talk about, you know, we need to do this, we need to do that, you know, to ensure our democracy. The capitalist system is not going anywhere, dude. You know why? Because we're too powerful. See, and all the dictators in the world, they're small ass countries that, they'll take over for a while until the next guy comes along and takes him out, like gangsters, you know. Yeah. You don't
have a lifespan.
No, you don't, and that's what's happening now. I'm enjoying it, by the way. And I'm glad that we can get on podcasts because I can't have this conversation with my wife or friends or family, and not even my kids, because everybody's got that brainwash kind of idea of things. But being in jail, especially, I know those moves,
Yeah. Oh, and I think people that's been around the block can spot those moves too. Like you said, for the end game and the way you kind of play to the crowd, and he was very good at that. Trump was very good at that. And a lot of people are not even in the political world, where the movie actors, singers. I mean, some people just have that way of captivating you and mesmerizing you.
Well, they are. They know how to deliver a line. Mm-hmm. And then you meet them.
I mean, hell, you guys. I mean, the way y'all deliver those lines. I mean, that's that's the same thing, and you're remembered years later for it. So, like we said earlier.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's really what and with me. It was my musical background as a backup guitar player, because a backup guitar player is used to be instead of a drummer, you had a backup guitar player. Mm-hmm. And so a backup guitar player has to hold the beat, the rhythm, has to hit the right changes, has to have the right tempo. He sets the tempo, the tone. He counts the tune in. He sets the thing, the whole mood. And that was always my genius. And so when it became most of the people that knew me so surprised when they found out I could speak. I never used to talk, never had to, so I didn't bother.
Who's just out of curiosity before we close up, man? Who's like probably the most famous person in your eyes that you've ever gotten high with?
I guess George Harrison.
George Harrison.
Yeah, George and I mean, not just once or twice, but quite a few times.
Yeah.
And he played guitar on Basketball Jones, and he was part of the A&M family, with Dark Horse Records. And we smoked up every time we saw each other. We'd be smoking up. I got high with John Lennon in the room. I offered him a joint, but he was messing around with his immigration problems or something, Yeah. So I never got to hang with John as much as I would have loved to. And Ringo, I had a few. I met him a few times, but he was more of an alcoholic than a pothead. And Paul, I haven't met yet. And the word's out. It's my bucket list, and Paul knows it too. And so whenever we finally get together, we're going to smoke up together. But I've known. I got high with Jimi Hendrix in the bathroom. He was in the bathroom. He never came out of the bathroom. We never saw him. All we knew was that Jimi Hendrix is in the bathroom. And then we left, and then he left. But I've gotten high with some serious people. Red Fox, a comedian.
Oh man, I love Red Fox.
Richard Pryor. I got to know Richard pretty well.
That movie they did together, Harlem Nights, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy and a lot of famous people in that one.
Oh, famous. And I met Eddie not too long, about a year or so ago, at a what's the name, Sugar Ray Leonard fight. He was promoting a fight for charity, and I was coming out of the bathroom, and Eddie Murphy says, "Hey man, I'm Eddie Murphy. I've always wanted to meet you." And that was like a shock. I'm looking at Eddie Murphy, and I said, "Are you Eddie Murphy?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "You're not Charlie Murphy, are you?" And he said, "No." And he got kind of serious. "No, man, I ain't Charlie Murphy." He got a little pissed off. I met what's the name? I just saw a show. he played Ray Charles.
Oh, Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, yeah, I saw
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx. And I saw him shopping. And Jamie's funny. I mean, he's funny looking, but he had his entourage and all shopping. And I told him they all look like a passel of gay guys with their little Prada shopping bags.
Yeah.
And he got pissed off at me. He said, "I ain't gay, man." I piss a lot, but not piss him off. I met Adam Sandler one time at the Paramount did a 100-year anniversary or something, and they had everybody that did a movie with Paramount under, to take a photo.
Yeah.
And I was there. Cheech was working. He was so sad that he missed it, but I was there, and they had everybody that's ever been on Paramount. So Chris Rock first. He saw me first, and he came over. He's a big fan. And Tommy John, and then Adam Sandler comes over, and I don't know why I said, I'm a big fan, I'm a big fan of yours too. And he's, "Oh, I bet you are." He said, "Okay, name a favorite Adam's picture, Adam Sandler picture." And so I said, "Borak." No, I didn't mean to, but that's the comedic guy inside me.
Yeah.
Because and he goes, I knew it. And then I said, Lothan, the secret agent guy that he played.
Oh, Zohan. Yeah, don't mess with the Zohan or whatever.
Yeah. I said that's the guy I was trying to say. But yeah, I got Adam so well. That was very funny. Yeah. He lives down the street from me here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he bought up every house around him. He's so rich, and he bought. Yeah. And this is like multi-zillion-dollar area, so he's got about 100. He's got a few million dollars stuck in real estate there. Wow. But he's so cool. Yeah, Adam Sandler.
I used to watch his singing back in the day. Like, he put out a lot of kind of the same thing like you guys did. The comedy albums, the song. He would write songs, but they'd be comedic songs. And I used to watch his performances back in the day. And this was like maybe on the cusp, like early Billy Madison stuff, before he got, as mainstream as he eventually did. But I enjoyed those things back then, like What the Hell Happened to Me and the Hanukkah song and the GOAT character that he created. I mean, I think that's something that's missing from comedy today, to be quite frank.
Well, no, it's of that time. And, there's some new stuff coming up, I mean, we all have our shot, and you can't live on yesterday's manna,
Yeah.
You have to keep, remember it, respect it, and all that good stuff. Yeah, because that's where Cheech and I were at for a while, and then I went on the road with my wife, and then when Cheech and my son got Cheech and I back together again, my wife laid down the law. You're not leaving me, I said, no problem. And so she ended up opening the show, and we had a nice run. We had almost a good 10-year run, with Cheech and Chong and Shelby. Yeah. But now I'm really, really enjoying what I'm doing now, Yeah. And senior, we don't have to like Steve Martin. I remember when I was a big Steve Martin fan. Mm-hmm. And I loved his writing. He's a really good writer. And when he was writing about how he got out of comedy, it was really funny. How he got into it was incredible. You ever hear the Steve Martin stories? Oh, great. Steve Martin, the reason he got such a good act, that he got hired, he was a magician, and he did magic tricks, and he could do all sorts of things. And so we got hired in this one club to just be on stage, and so that people walking by in San Francisco, people walking by would look in and see something on stage and go, "Oh, let's go see what's going on." But there'd be nobody in the audience. So Steve he was a writer, so he'd get up there and he'd pretend that he had an audience. "Hey, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please sit down, and he would do that. And then he did the bit with the lighting. There was no lighter guy. He would just fake like a guy. Like, he's gonna have a little soft light here because I'd like to do a very romantic song. And then, no, please, do you mind a little soft blue light here? And then he would go crazy. Hey, all I'm asking for is a nice soft light. And is that too much? Well, then excuse me, and so he was having so much fun that people walking by, they would look in and they would come in. And next thing you know, he would have a crowd. But his humor is I'm not a, the last thing he did with I forget the Murder, She Wrote or whatever. It's sort of like something, I don't know. It's not the Steve Martin funny.
Right. Back in the day.
We grew up with. Yeah.
So, I mean, I got to, with all these people that you've met in your lifetime, obviously, stars, movie stars, actors, singers, all of them know you. You're very synonymous. But this is a question I really want to ask, like, who is probably your top 3 people in your life that you would want to get high with and just pick their brain?
Anybody?
Anybody.
Stephen Hawkins. Love to get high with him.
Yeah.
Would have loved to get high with him. Moses. Definitely Moses was my kind of man. Because Moses, he did not intend to be a prophet or anything. He was
a fuck up. Yeah.
He was a fuck up that had a good education. And he was the first real pothead, the Bible talks about, because the burning bush talked to him.
Yeah, the burning bush talked to him.
Yeah. And the burning bush, that's what he said. And then I guess, who I wanted to meet, never did, but Nelson Mandela.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved to hang with him.
Yeah.
Because you talk about strength. Can you imagine 18 years in a South African prison? His job was breaking rocks. And he managed to teach while he was there and teach law while he was there. For 18 years in there. And then he became the premier of the country. So that's the guys. That's the guy. I've been really blessed. I've met the best of, like, I not only met, I hung with Muhammad Ali for a little bit. This is a funny story. It's so true. I was going to go meet Muhammad Ali, and I was on the phone with this stripper friend of mine, Lady Scarlett, and she goes, first of all, I didn't know I was meeting Muhammad, and all of a sudden she goes, guess who I was with last night? Who? Muhammad Ali. Wow, yeah, we had a wonderful time, blah, 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 had a night and everything else. And I said, is he there now? She said, oh, no, just the one night, that was it. But he was so beautiful and lovely. She went on and on. Her name was Lady Scarlett. And so then I get a call, around the same time, from Bobby Taylor, the singer. And we're in Detroit at the time. And Bobby says, come on over. The champ's coming over. I said, what? He said, yeah, Muhammad Ali's coming by. Because him and Bobby were buddies back in the day. Bobby went to the Olympics with Muhammad Ali when he was in the Olympics. And so they were really tight friends, and Bobby was a phenomenal singer and a legend in his own time. So I of course, Muhammad Ali would know him. And so I drive to the apartment complex, and there's a elevator. You get on the elevator, the only way you get to the rooms. And so I get on the elevator, and Muhammad Ali walks in the elevator. Now there's only 2 of us. And I just heard all the stories about him. And so he walked in, and he's kind of looking everywhere but at me. He's kind of looking around. He had his dark glasses on. And I said, we're halfway up to the elevator, and I said, Lady Scarlett says to say hi. He did the greatest look. First of all, he took the glass up. And he looked at me like, where did this guy come from? And before we could say anything, the door stops, the door opens, and we're at the place. And we're going to the same apartment building. And so we went in there, and oh my God. Well, as soon as we got around Bobby and everybody else, then the spell was broke. Yeah. We never did talk. We took pictures, and we were like posing and everything else, and boxing. And he's looking at me like,
yeah, I really.
yeah. Oh, that was funny. I've had a few of those memorable times. Like, do you know Wes Montgomery, the guitar player? By the thumb, he played with his thumb.
I've heard that. I've heard somebody talk about him before. I think it was Edward, the photographer. I've heard somebody talk about him before.
Yeah. Anyway, he's one of the phenomenal. When I was a kid, when I was coming up, and I once had a private concert with him because everybody in Canada, we had clubs, music clubs, but no liquor license. And because you couldn't get a liquor license in jazz, we were very prejudiced, but we could go there. And so everybody would get high, get stoned and especially in Canada, a lot of junkies and that, And so he was playing a club, and there was nobody awake. I was the only guy in the audience that was awake. And so he came out, and we just talked for about a half hour. Then he said, well, I better play. And then he played a whole set for me. And I sat in front of him. It was just him and I. And then at the end, he said, hey, thanks, Wes. See you. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. So you're pushing your own products now. Is there anything you want to tell people if they want to where they can find you, what you're selling as far as your stuff, your line of stuff?
Well, I'm the CBD guy. Like the My Pillow guy. I'm the CBD guy. Go for you. Turn on your computer, and I'll pop up and say, try my product and click down here to learn more. And I do my own. I use my own products, and I got one called Nice Dreams that'll put you to sleep.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I got one Good Vibes that'll wake you up, and so I got it covered. And I'm enjoying my life. I'm not. The stuff sells itself. That's the great thing about the weed. I don't ever have to do that. I'm making these things. So these are little, what do you call it, like joint holders?
Yeah.
Like instead of a cigarette holder, there's a little joint holder, and you light them up and you smoke them this way. That's for the COVID. You don't want to share your joint.
Share your joint.
One hand your joint, you can put it in there.
Wow.
And I make these, I carve these little guys. I love these little Nada pipes.
Yeah, Nada pipes. Yeah, I think I heard you talk about them on Rogan. Yeah, Nada pipe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Rogan. A genius though for people, because most times when somebody smokes, they're with a buddy or something like that. You don't want to share the joint. That's genius.
Yeah. Well, the way you smoke, if you don't want to get it, you put your joint here.
Yeah.
Smoke like that there, and you don't have your lips on anybody's boogers, or stuff. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. More than that, I've been writing. Been writing, getting ready to do a book of poems. I had a buddy. He turned out to be the poet laureate of Canada a few years ago. He died recently, and his wife sent me his last book of poems. And it's and I look at him, he's Canadian too. And we write, there's a lot of similarities in our writings. And I'm looking to that. youngest son, Jobran, he's got a degree in music, you know, in percussion. And so we're going to eventually get together, you know, when the pandemic slows, you know, when everything slows down a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing some work with him. You know, I'm at the stage now, man, when you don't have to leave home.
Yeah.
Why leave? You don't have to travel. Why travel?
Yeah.
You know, I love what I'm doing here, man. You know? So I've got that going on, and then I've got this idea of doing movies that can be used. It's like the first kind of, it's a documentary. See, most movies, when you shoot a movie, you got a camera crew shooting behind the scenes, you know, the documentary part, you know, and a lot of times, not to disparage anybody's movie, but a lot of times the behind the scenes are more interesting, you know, because you get some real life,
absolutely
stuff. Yeah. And so I've got a plan that I want to be talking with some serious movie makers about. I'd like to form a movie company. In fact, I want to call it Peace Pipe Pictures. And I want to be the mogul, because that's what Cheech accused me. He says, you know, you're a megalomaniac. He once said that about me. And I said, you know, Cheech always speaks the truth. And so I want to become a movie mogul, and then I want to create projects that are ongoing, not just a movie, a thrill, and then, you know, like Maverick or whatever, you know, where you come and see it, boom, a lot of car chases and go home. I want to do serial movies. For instance, I want to do a movie about the immigration or the Great Migration from the South America. And what I want to do, I see how Haiti needs help too. I see they're going crazy in Haiti. But anyway, my idea is to hire the marchers as movie actors with visas and get them into the country legally with visas. And not only the actor, not only the people, but their family. Get everybody family, and then pay them to be in the movie company, and have them join all the guilds, so they have all the benefits. Have the kids go to the schools, have the health, have everything vetted. We know exactly who's working for the movie company. We know where they are, and then we have jobs for them, and then we'll shoot movies, fiction and real, about their adventures from their 13-mile trek, you know, how they got there and everything else. And then I want to do it with like name actors, I mean directors and writers and that. I've been binging on a lot of the old sitcoms, Third Rock from the Sun, and Two and a Half Men and all that. And I love them, but we're going into a new era, and it's more like reality is much more real.
Oh yeah.
Than chuckling at caricatures of people, you know.
Absolutely.
And we don't have to do that. See, back in the day, the sitcom and everything else, you had a limited budget, you know. But now we have the ability to Saturday Night Live, for instance, is a serial thing that's been on 30 years.
A long time.
Yeah. And so what I want to do is create an entertainment system that does that too, you know, so we can create with people, we can create everything that we need to do, and then we create a best society. We also got a plan. By the way, a little hint, be careful when you ask a writer what's he got planned. Because
that can take up some time.
we could be here for him, because I got a solution for the gun problem, you know.
Do you?
Yeah, the solution is insurance. You can have any gun you want, but you have to be able to insure it so that if anything happens, everything's covered. You see? Now you're not going to restrict any weapon at all, but it's going to be restricted to the people that have insurance. And the only way you can get insurance is to meet all the criteria that's needed in order that you can safely give someone a AK-15 and not worry about it.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. See, insurance everywhere in the country. And the same thing is the homeless solution is to designate areas that you want to clean up as the movie set, and then hire everybody there, either on the movie company, they can come and work for the movie company if they're fit and able, and the ones that aren't, the criminals or whatever, they're only there because of the free rent, then they have to leave. But the area is there, and then after you shoot the movie, then you clean up the area and you put it back, and then the people that were there, now they got jobs and they got a life, and now you got and homes too, because we can get accommodations for everybody. And so I can see us using the movie industry to clean up our world, because that's what Trump did, only he did it in a negative way. Like he tried to do an insurrection, and everybody had cameras and everybody shot. So reverse that, do it where it's good with everybody, like the movie of the migration, for instance. Everybody had a little camera and they filmed, and there's all these little things that went on, or these major things that went on, or why you're running, why are they running, and someone's after. There's all sorts of beautiful drama and comedy and everything else in real life. Because real life, that's why the Fox News and Fox News is like a movie, the ones that lie.
Yeah.
but the rest of them, they tell the truth. And it's fascinating. And that's what we're watching. I would like to use the industry that we have. It's already here. See, we don't need to invent anything. You don't have to invent shit. We get a new thing or elect anybody. See, the electing thing is terrible, because they're only in there for 4 years, 5 years. And so they spend half the time planning to get in the next time, and so they don't really take care of anything. And that's why dictators, if they're good, they can take care of shit. Mussolini had all the trains running on time, for instance. Hitler rebuilt an army that was mind-boggling, but they did it for evil purposes, so it never worked. But this is what I see is using the energy that we have going, which is movies. Because everybody's a movie maker now. Everybody's got a phone and camera. That's what got George Floyd, the little girl holding that camera on the cop while he killed George.
Yeah.
And you can't beat that kind of stuff. See, you can't. We got to be honest. And I like to.
And I think that's part of what, like you said earlier, that's what people are into now, as opposed to like the sitcoms. Don't get me wrong, sitcoms have their place. But like true crime and true active stuff like that's what's so popular now. It's like when Netflix releases a new true crime documentary, it immediately, becomes the big thing, what Tiger King and all that. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can hear the same story over and over and over again, but you're going to learn more, and you're going to learn more. That one guy both wives fell downstairs.
Oh yeah, the staircase. Yeah. Michael Peterson, I think it was.
And then you go, what? Did he get away with it? It's fascinating.
Yes.
Fascinating. It's real life, but they're actors.
Yeah.
And you can't tell the actors from the real life, because that's good acting. You see? No, we're coming into the golden age. Especially when you look at the old films and you see the big old phones that they used to have with the wires hanging up. And we lived for them, man. We lived, and I grew up through that whole era. I was there when they put electricity in my house. I remember they didn't run it through the wall. They ran it on the outside of the wall, right up to the front, and put a light bulb there. So yeah, we got so much material, but use use that energy to help people. Like, for instance, I already designated golf as the world religion, that everybody follows the rules of golf. No matter what country you're in, where you're in, we all play by the same rules. And you have to be so honest with this golf business that even when you put your ball down, if you don't put that marker right behind the ball, then you can lose a lot of money in a thing. If you, like, what's her name did, I forget her name, but she put the marker down and then put the ball beside the marker instead of in front of the marker. And she lost millions of dollars because of that one move. So that's one, think about it. Everybody plays golf. You know, all the businessmen in the world, they got that golf thing. And so I bring attention to that kind of thing. And then I also, when you asked what I'm up to, I've also got a new way of putting. I putt with the nose of the putter, one-handed, and I'm deadly. I'm deadly. I've played a few tournaments, you know. In fact, I won one tournament, and I played with. What was I doing? No, the one I won. No, I wasn't using the nose, but I have, like, the George Lopez golf tournaments.
Yeah,
I become the designated putter because what happens? I can make 12 footers, 15 footers, almost, it's like tap-ins, you know, because what happens with the nose of the putter, it's like a pool cue.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so what you do, you line up the ball with the nose. Okay. You see where you want to go. Now, because the nose is so small, there's no room for error. You got to hit it perfectly. And the way you hit it perfectly, you keep your eye on the ball, and then you use one hand, like throwing horseshoes or bowling. You just use one hand. So you don't have two hands, you know, screwing up the works. You got one hand. And because you're going one way, it's like you're throwing, you're bowling in that one direction. And so the other thing about golfing like that is it fucks everybody else's game up.
I believe it.
They look at it and they go, what? Blah. And I made the ball, what? And now the pressure's on them. And the minute you put pressure on anybody, that's when overthinking comes in, or you just because the first thing you think about, oh man, he made that putt one-handed, now I got to do it, oh my God. And no, that's what I've been doing.
Man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show. I've had a blast. You're very deep in your knowledge, you know, and that's really one of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview is, you know, in prep, I listened to some other shows you did. And, you know, when people think Cheech and Chong, Tommy Chong, they automatically go to pot. But you're so much deeper than that. That's why I was wanting to get this interview in, because you're like a wealth of knowledge on many different subjects. Some of them we didn't even get a chance to get into here. We probably need 4 or 5 shows to cover it all to even scratch the surface. But like you said, you were in the music business, you've done the comedy, you transcended comedy, in my opinion, to what it is today. You've done the movies, you know, you've done the touring, you started the business, you went to jail, you got out, you never let anything stop you. You just kept progressing.
No. Everything, we're here. Life is an adventure.
Absolutely.
And it's up to us to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no reason to hold back or to even, you know, just if you're just totally honest, that's the key. In fact, that was the last podcast I was on. You can be honest. It's the truth. That's what comedians are. We're truth seekers. We want to find the truth. That's why if you watch George Carlin things, whenever he would, now he would hit truths, but a lot of times he would do it in a negative way, like it was a style of pointing out how the hypocrisy of things. Okay, but that's only the beginning. And that's really a form of looking at other people with your take on them. In other words, judging. And one of the things that I learned with my spiritual quest and everything else is the meaning of the spiritual words that are given to us. Like the Lord's Prayer, for instance, is the most powerful prayer on the planet. And a lot of people, for the most part, and I don't want to be judgmental in a sense, but it's the truth. They recite the Lord's Prayer like it's a mantra, They don't really listen to the words or even appreciate the words. But if you look at just the Lord's Prayer, and I'll leave you with this, when you go, Our Father who art in heaven. Now that right there tells you so much, that our Father who art in heaven, where is he? He's in heaven. He's not here on earth. He's in heaven. Why is he in heaven? Because he's evolved to the point that's the only place he can be. Because earth is for us to become God. Earth is physical. So we can feel pain, we can feel joy, we can feel misery, we can see grief, we can feel everything. And the reason we feel everything is so we can learn. Like a little kid learning how to walk, you can't stop them from falling and hurting themselves. You can't, because that's part of the system. In fact, little kids have endorphins in their body that they can take more pain than the average human, because that's the nature of their learning. And so we're really here on earth to learn. So our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Now right there, hallowed be thy name, meaning the word God has so much power, depending on how you use it. It's the most powerful word on the universe. That's why when you take an oath, you swear on the Bible, swear to God. That's why when you get married, no man, what God has put together, the word God is invoked as the whole, and it's just the name. And if you take that name, and if you put the name of God into your thoughts, just your thoughts, every chance you get, just think of God. Even if you say, what would God do? Oh God, I need, like with me, if I lose my phone, I'll say, okay, God, where's my phone? And I know that phone's going to appear. I got bad eyesight, so half the time I'll look around and say, oh, there it is. But until I ask God, I'm lost. And a lot of people are like, Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Very important. This is God's world. We're caretakers or destroyers or whatever, drunks or whatever. We're here, we're humans. We're here really to behold, if you have the ability, to behold the beauty and to appreciate the beauty and to live in the beauty, because you can only get this in the physical plane. When you go to the spiritual plane, because this is what I also figured out, everything, in order for electricity to work, you need a positive and a negative. In order to have a physical world, you need a positive, negative. That's the way it is. They're opposites. Why are they opposites? Because that creates energy. That's the energy, you see. And that's what creates electricity. That's what creates power. And that's what creates us. And that's what we're always looking for. Like instead of drilling miles into the earth, for our fuel to burn, to be so antiquated. All we have to do is point something at the sun.
Yeah.
The sun's there, and we get all the energy we want. Hallowed be the name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. In other words, what God has put together, no man could put asunder. So if anything happens, like kids being killed and that, the reason is that we have to learn. We have to learn, and that's the grief is part of the learning process, and the lack and the feeling and everything. It's all, I will be on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us this day. You know what that means? Stay in the present. Give us this day, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but this day.
Concentrate on today.
Our daily bread, not tomorrow's bread, not yesterday's bread, our daily bread. Our daily bread is what? Nourishment. It could be nourishment, or it could be what we do to get nourishment. Our assignment, whatever it is, you give us this day our daily bread, and forgive our trespasses. Forgiveness. That's the biggest thing. When you forgive, you become God, because only God can forgive, really. And what we do when you forgive, because all forgiveness is changing your thought from blaming to forgiving. So you don't blame, and once you forgive, it's over. It's done. It's done. Whatever the thing is. You bump into someone, you say, oh, forgive me. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. And then whoever you bump into, say, oh, no problem. You know, forgive us. The bread for and forgive us our trespasses, for thou, and what is the other go? For thou is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. For thou is the kingdom, this is where we live, the power and the glory. It's not us. It's him or her, God. That's the glory. The glory goes to God. Why? Because that's our way of connecting with God. That's our way of saying, yes, I do believe in you. I not only believe in you, I know that you can do everything that even beyond what I can imagine. You know what I need before I know it, because I have my mind on you, on God. And as a result, no harm can come to me. No harm would come to me, ever. And that's why, like during the war, there was medics, there'd be bombs exploding around. Well, you look at Ukraine. You see those ambulance workers out there. Bombs falling all over there. Where ambulance workers? They're in there. They're taking people and everything else. Bomb comes, they duck out of the way. They're protected. They always will be protected, because they are doing God's work, in other words. And so if you just appreciate one line of that Lord's Prayer, just one line, your life will change. Anybody's life will change so drastically that it'll take your breath away. I mean, I got pictures of my gorgeous wife, who I've been with forever. And and I still got my first wife too. She's still here too. So I got everybody that came in this game with, they're still with me, because they're part of the family, you see. Because everything I have, I owe to my belief and faith in God. And I never get enough. This is why we do these podcasts, because you wanted me on, and this is why you wanted me on.
Absolutely.
This is because this is information, and that can change it's the word and the thought of God is so powerful that there are people watching this that will become healed, whatever it is. It could be depression. The other night I was with an actor, and that's what he was. He was suffering from depression. And I reminded him, you know what depression is? Wrong thought. That's all it is. You know, I said, tell me about it. And he tells me, you get these loops going, you know, that I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure. And you get depressed and we're going, yeah. So all you have to do is change the reel. And tell the guy, hey, okay, I saw that movie. Okay, no more. I don't want to see that anymore. Change the reel. Put the funny shit on.
Put that Cheech Chong up and smoke on.
That's what we got to do.
Well, man, I tell you what. Like I said, I'm so happy you come on the show. I'm thank you for giving me this time. As I've said a few times during this interview, and I'll say it one more time, it was an honor to interview a legend such as yourself, sir.
Yeah, and I hope, you know, and I know that you know, I've often wondered, because my book, you know, this Goldsmith book, he says, you know, he tells people like me, and don't be preaching. he says, you know, he says, that's my job. I'm already doing that. He says, use what I teach you for your own life, you know, and don't worry about starting your own religion or doing anything else. And it's always been in my mind, you know. I've always, you know, when I saw, what's his name that preaches, Osteen?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Oh, Joel Osteen?
Joel, yeah. When I see, I love Joel. And because I've watched him since he was a kid, you know, and I know his personality pretty well, you know, because he wasn't kind of anti-pot, but he was aware that because he played basketball, you know, with the brothers, I guess it was, and he knew that they were smoking pot. He did one bit of a sermon in that, but I love him because we really are saying the same thing.
Yeah,
you know, it's just to a different crowd, you know.
Yeah,
what he's saying, what I'm saying, and then, but he's got the burden. He's got a burden that I don't have, which is he makes a living doing that, you know. And so when you do that, there's a lot expected, you know, there's a lot of heavy shit that's expected.
Yeah.
Me, I sort of do it, but it's not for money.
Yeah, you do it. I mean, you can do it because you want. You have that freedom to do it because it's
yeah.
what you believe.
Yeah, and I can smoke pot. You know, I don't have to worry about the church going, oh, you're setting a bad example. I think the movies, that's all the example that I've ever wanted to set. But even in the movies, you look at the movies, and one thing that I don't know if people catch it or not, but I told Cheech, you know, we have to show our characters as being in really good shape. And because if we're going to play stoners, you know, I'm going to play stoners and you get smoking and everything else, I want the audience to go, well, they were kind of buffed. They look kind of good. You know what I mean? And then when we played music, it was, wow, you know, that was, we never expected that, you know. I once tried to do a bit where the band was terrible, but that's a movie law that I broke, and you never break that law. The worst thing you can do is show bad music. It's the absolute worst, and because it's like serving a rotten egg. You know, it looks like an omelet, but it's rotten. You know.
Yeah.
So, but I had a break. I've broken many movie rules, you know. But I've learned that, you know, okay, break a rule, but learn. So I'd never do that. But that's what Cheech and I made sure, you know, and Cheech is such a phenomenon when it comes to acting and doing voices and catching right away, you know. We had a nice run for a while. And by the way, his museum is doing incredible.
Is it?
So Yeah, he's got a museum. It's sold out almost every day, and he's doing well. He's doing very, very well.
That's great. You know Charles Wright? He was the Godfather in WWE, but he's big pot marijuana advocate. I mean, I want to say that I've seen him post with you on Instagram before. He used to wrestle up under a couple different gimmicks, but his last gimmick was the Godfather, where he basically played like a pimp. And
Oh yeah,
he
yeah,
would come out to the ring with the hose, and before he wrestled the guy, he would offer him. He's like, "All right, now
was
we
it
can
black guy?
fight." Yeah, black guy.
Yeah.
He said, "We can fight, and I'm gonna kick your ass, or you can just take these hoes here and go on about your business." And he said that was the best gimmick I ever had, because he was some weird shit. He was like Papa Shango and, Kama, and he had like 3 or 4 different gimmicks until he got to that. And he said, that's what I was. He said, I ran strip clubs. He said, I dealt with women. And he said, I like to smoke weed. And he said, when the first time he tried it, he's like, man, I quit every pill I was taking. He said, I quit drinking. He was like, because this stuff made me feel great. I could still work out. It didn't affect my in-ring performances. And he loved it. And that was him. And he said, I used to come out to the ring. I used to want to go on first. He said, I love to be the first show. He said, I could go on, do my thing, and then bam, I'm back at the hotel smoking one, getting high. And he said, that was the time of my life doing that gimmick.
Yeah. I mean, that when you learn the secrets. Yeah. I knew a lot of wrestlers. When I was a kid, I had a godmother. She would travel. She was a missionary, and she would travel around the world. And she collected autographs of all the great wrestlers that she would meet on the boats. And at the time, they went on boats and ships. And there's a wrestler called Yukon Eric. She got his autograph, and a few of the big guys. And I knew one. I worked out with one. Hard-boiled Haggerty was his name, and we. Yeah, he was sweet. He got cancer at the end. He got prostate pretty bad, and I met him at the gym. He was a big old wrestler, crying on my shoulder. Big old guy, beautiful. Oh, we had a lot of fun. Yeah, my first mentor, or actually my only mentor, he used to wrestle under the name of Nature Boy. He wasn't that big. Him and I were the same size, but the gimmick was he was the valet of one of the big wrestlers. And then because he could wrestle and he had a great body in that, he would rescue him at the end, when he was getting beat up by the bad guys. He'd come in there. Yeah, I know. I grew up in a very wrestling town, Calgary. There was
Stu Hart down there running
the Harts.
Yeah.
The Hart family.
Yeah.
The Hart family. Yeah, they had a house.
Dungeon. Yeah.
And they no blankets. They had a sheet. And they wake up in the morning, there'd be snow on the sheet to blow it off. They were tough as nails. The Harts. Yeah. Stu Hart was the dad.
Yep, Stu Hart. They called the area down there where he would train them the Dungeon.
Yeah. I'd left before he got there, but I learned when I was really young, when I was about, I guess 12, 13, around that time, I had a friend, and I'd go stay at her house. There was nothing sexual going on, but she was like a girlfriend, but I'd stay at her house, sleep with her brothers, and her brothers would teach me all these wrestling holds. And so when I'd get with my friends, and I learned all these killing holds. And I taught my son one time, Paris, I taught him a thing, when they grab you around in a hammerlock, around the head, and you pick him up and fall backwards.
Yeah.
And drive the guy's head in the thing. I showed my son that one, and he did it to his buddy. Almost killed the guy. The guy was, he almost had to go to the hospital because almost broke his neck. Oh, we had fun, man. I was a big wrestler fan for a long time. Cheech's too. Cheech, when he was a kid, his mother or someone in the neighborhood used to do the wash for Bobo Brazil, another black wrestler, and he would show it in a big Cadillac and that. They were the rock stars back in the day.
Oh yeah, yeah. They had a movie, a documentary come out, and I think it was on Amazon. It was called 350 Days. But what it signified was back in the territory days, that's how many days a year they had to work to make a living, to make it worth it. And, you know, just the stories of all the drugs and, you know, the stuff you had to do to keep going. It was like, you know, you had no choice back in those days. You know, you had to do cocaine to keep going. You had to take downers to go to sleep. You had to take uppers to get back going. I mean, it was a hard life for a lot of those guys.
Yeah. And a lot of the venues too, they never had dressing rooms.
Yeah.
You know, they had a dressing room, but then you'd see them get him beat and carried off in a stretcher. And then next thing you know, you're standing in next to him at the urinal peeing. And you see, at one time they had all blood all over the place, no blood, nothing, just a little bit of ketchup or whatever.
Yeah.
On the things. Yeah, that was the go-to in the 50s.
Oh yeah,
in the 50s. Yeah, that was where.
Still too in the 80s they had a whole, you know, when Hulk Hogan was there, and then I thought his career was done, but then he went to WCW and had that resurgence with the whole NWO thing, and that was like, for me when I was coming up, that was like prime wrestling. That what they called it, the Attitude Era, where everything sort of pushed the envelope with nudity and, you know, Stone Cold drinking beer on TV and all that. Everything was, if this was the line, they went that far. You know?
Of course, yeah. Even to the point where the one Hart guy died because he did a stunt.
Owen. Yeah, Bret Hart's brother. He was coming down. I forgot what city. I want to say Utah, but I might be Kansas City. And he was coming down, and the strap broke, and he tragically died right there in the ring.
Yep.
I was watching that pay-per-view when it happened. They didn't show it.
No.
Luckily, they were doing, like, they were showing a promo that he had cut earlier in the night, and you could hear something like a thud, but then they was like, oh, we've got, you know, problems here, and they just panned around the crowd till they got everything cleared up out of the ring. But I was watching that night. That was horrible because he was a good dude. Owen was a good dude. Yeah.
And his dad was crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Stu was crazy as hell. I've heard stories about how crazy he was.
Oh yeah, Calgary. Yeah, that's where I grew up, man. That's it. Yeah, I was right into that world, and then I went to World's Gym or Gold's Gym at the time, and that's when I met Hardboiled Haggerty and Gene Kaniski and another wrestler. They were the bad white guys up in Canada, Calgary, and there was what was the native? There's Chief, what the fuck?
Jay Strongbow.
He had the Indian Deathlock.
Chief Jay Strongbow. Yeah, that was
it. He wrapped his legs around there. I learned how to do that.
And then Wahoo McDaniel was also another one.
Another native, yeah. But he had that Indian Deathlock, put it around there. Because that's the way, apparently they used to tie, what do you call, you capture someone in a fight and they wrap their legs around a tree and tie their hands, and they couldn't move anywhere. Yeah.
That's great.
That was a golden era, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, I'm gonna let you get out of here, man. I've taken up enough of your time, but I've really thoroughly enjoyed this, and I hope you did as well, sir.
Oh, I did. I had a great time, man.
All right.
So you take care, and anytime you want me, just call me. I'll be there, like that song says. Just call out my name, and I'll be there. I'll come running.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Hollywood Wade, and that was Tommy Chong. And unfortunately, we are out of time. Tune in next week for an all-new episode of Crime and Entertainment. Tommy, we appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, my brother.